A loud bang, and the world shattered. David Okafor had barely touched the steering wheel before the SUV spun like a mad carousel on the highway. Glass exploded, tires screeched, and the sound of metal colliding echoed into the night like thunder from angry gods. In a blink, his shiny black SUV, his pride, his proof of success, was now a prison of twisted steel, smoke, and flames. He blinked through the haze, heart pounding. His ears rang, his chest hurt. He could barely think. His wife, Amaka, lay slumped against the passenger seat, motionless, a thin line of blood tracing her forehead. His 10-year-old son, Toby, sat behind him, clutching his seatbelt, eyes wide with terror. And then his eyes fell on the briefcase, a simple brown leather case wedged under the passenger seat. Inside it lay the contract worth $50 billion. Yes, $50 billion. Enough money to not only change his life, but to rewrite the story of his family forever. But now fire was crawling from the hood to the cabin, licking at the dashboard like a hungry beast. He had seconds, maybe less, and he could only save two things. Two: wife, son, contract. His chest tightened, his lungs filled with smoke. He wanted to scream, but his voice was swallowed by the crackle of fire. God, he muttered, why didn't this happen when I was broke? Smoke poured like angry spirits through the dashboard vents. He coughed hard, eyes burning, brain scrambling. He had no more than 2 minutes before the car turned into a fireball. His heart whispered, wife. His soul screamed, son. His brain shouted, $50 billion. Three voices battled in his head like street preachers with megaphones. Two, David. You can only choose two. The flames crackled, mocking him. Before the fire, before the crash, before this nightmare, he had been a king. That very morning, he'd sat in a glass-walled boardroom with men who smelled of power and wore watches more expensive than houses. They had smiled at him, clapped him on the back. This deal, they said, will change the face of Africa. $50 billion. His name was on it. His signature, his sweat, his ambition. He had walked out of that meeting feeling taller, richer, invincible. He had promised Amaka, this is it. No more struggle. Our son will never know what poverty feels like. And now, that briefcase, the symbol of all he had worked for, was seconds away from becoming roasted leather. Is this a joke? He coughed, pounding the dashboard. $50 billion against my family? Who wrote this script? His brain slipped into madness. He could almost hear an invisible auctioneer in his head. Lot number 1, your wife, unconscious but breathing. Who bids? Lot number 2, your son, crying and terrified. Who bids? Lot number 3, $50 billion, gentlemen, the deal of a lifetime. And in the gallery of his imagination, people waved paddles and shouted, take the contract, you can buy another wife. Take the boy, he's your future. Take the woman, she stood by you when you had nothing. The fire snapped louder, like a gavel slamming down. Sold to whoever decides quickest. Through the madness, through the smoke, he heard it. Daddy, please! Toby's voice cut sharper than the flames. It wasn't just a plea. It was faith. It was trust. The boy who thought his father could fix anything, broken toys, broken dreams, was asking him to fix this. The contract's worth didn't matter. The applause of boardrooms didn't matter. His son mattered. Instinct roared louder than greed. David lunged for the back seat, ripping open the jammed door with a grunt that tore his shoulder. Smoke clawed at his throat. He grabbed Toby by the arm. Out! Now! He shoved the boy through the broken window, glass slicing his palm. Run, Toby! Run and don't look back! The boy stumbled barefoot onto the road, coughing, crying, but alive. One down. One to go. Amaka was limp, her hair soaked in blood. The seatbelt locked like a vice, trapping her. Flames crawled closer. David yanked at the buckle. Nothing. He pulled harder. Still nothing. He screamed, coughed, cursed. Her shoe caught in the twisted metal. Of all things, a shoe. Why today? Why now? Why not when we were still broke and arguing over Gary? The car creaked. The heat grew unbearable. The briefcase under her seat glowed like a devil's treasure chest. 50 billion inches from his hand. But Amaka's breath, shallow, faint, was worth more. He tore at the seatbelt with his teeth, with his bare hands, until finally it snapped. He dragged her out, her body heavy, limp. Halfway, her leg caught again. He cursed shoemakers, heels, seatbelts, everything. He pulled with the strength of a desperate man and ripped her free. Together they tumbled onto the hot asphalt.
One heartbeat later, boom. The SUV exploded into a blazing mushroom of fire. The briefcase, the $50 billion, was gone. The fire burned behind them, flames licking the night sky. The briefcase was ash. David lay on the ground, chest heaving, face streaked with soot and tears. He had his wife, faintly breathing. He had his son, clutching his arm. He had nothing else. And somehow that was everything. He laughed. Not a bitter laugh. Not a sad laugh. But a wild, cracked laugh of a man who had lost it all and yet gained it all. "Goodbye, 50 billion, he whispered. "Hello, hospital bills." Toby wiped tears from his eyes. "Daddy, are we poor now?" David hugged him close. "Yes, son. Poor but alive." He kissed his son's forehead, tears streaming freely now. "And trust me, being poor has never felt this expensive." Sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights cut through the smoke. Strangers pulled over, shouting, running. But David barely heard them. His world was here, his son breathing against his chest, his wife faintly stirring in his arms. The 50 billion was gone. But, as he looked at their faces, he realized the fire had burned away his greed too. He wasn't the man who wanted the world anymore. He was the man who had almost lost it. And sometimes, that's richer than all the money in the world. The ambulance lights painted the highway in flashes of red and blue. David sat on the ground, his wife breathing faintly against his chest, his son clutching his arm like a lifeline. He was alive. They were alive. That should have been enough. But in the smoky distance, a figure emerged from the shadows. A tall man in a long dark coat, face hidden beneath the brim of a hat. He didn't rush to help, didn't shout in panic. He simply stood there, watching the burning wreck like it was a stage play crafted just for him. Then, with a slow, almost satisfied smile, he bent down and picked something from the roadside gravel. David's heart skipped. The briefcase. Half-burnt, scorched at the edges. But somehow intact, the very contract David had left to die in the flames. The stranger dusted it off casually, like it was nothing more than a lost wallet. Then his voice, smooth and unsettling, cut through the chaos. "You made the right choice, Mr. Okafor, family first. Always. But every decision has its price." David's lips parted, but no words came. He couldn't tell if this man was real or just another ghost, conjured by smoke and exhaustion. The stranger tipped his hat, turned toward the flashing lights, and vanished into the chaos, the briefcase in hand. The man brushed ash off the case, looked at David, and smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who knew secrets too heavy for the world. "You made the right choice, Mr. Okafor," the stranger said, his voice calm and unsettling, like velvet over steel. "Family first, always. But every choice has a price." David opened his mouth, but no words came. His throat tightened. His son buried his face against him. His wife stirred again, mumbling his name. When David looked up, the man was already turning away, the briefcase in hand. "Wait," David croaked, his voice cracking. "Who are you?" The man didn't answer. He tipped his hat slightly, then disappeared into the crowd of flashing lights and chaos, as if he had never been there. David's chest tightened. The night had given him his family back but taken something else. As the ambulance doors slammed shut behind them, one thought haunted him, louder than the sirens, louder than the memory of the flames. If the fire couldn't destroy that briefcase, what exactly was inside it? The night offered no answers, only silence and the promise of another storm to come.